The only thing harder than surviving a zombie apocalypse is trying to survive a zombie apocalypse in the dark. In this video, Stumps and I are going to show you several off-grid solutions to keep both water and power flowing to your base in vain. We'll look at several ways to replace city water and power after they get turned off, how to connect everything in your base to work properly, and what to do if you survived long enough to experience winter. Let's get into it. Before we can build what we need to survive the apocalypse, we're going to need to level some basic stats. Here's a quick mini guide on how to power level the necessary stats. When you first create your character, you get to choose 3 stats to boost from 0 to 25. You'll definitely want to take mechanical and electrical for this guide. The third stat is up to you. We'll also need to level our strength and construction stats. I recommend you get an axe or saw and chop down trees for wood logs. This will level your strength stat. Right-click a stack of wood logs and dismantle all for a random amount of wood scraps and wooden planks. Press B for the build menu, go to the Stations tab, and select Campfires. Use the wood logs and wood scraps to craft a campfire, then immediately destroy it. Repeat this process to power level your construction, crafting, and dismantling stats. I usually power level my construction and crafting to level 50. If you need to raise either stat later, just make more campfires. Once crafting hits level 50, press Tab, go to the Stats tab, click on the icon in front of crafting, and select your perks. I usually take the Phantom Builder and Quantum Crafter perks as they either reduce crafting material requirements or create extra materials when crafting. To power level your mechanical stat, simply craft metal brackets. You'll use dozens, if not hundreds, of metal brackets when fortifying your base, so feel free to go nuts. To make metal brackets, you'll need a claw hammer, a set of basic pliers like combination pliers or tongue and groove pliers, and iron scraps. You can find all the tools mentioned in this guide at Frank's Hardware Emporium in Saranac. I usually get my iron scraps from destroying chain link fencing and other metal objects. And finally, you can power level your electrical stats by hot wiring cars. If you boosted your electrical stat to 25 during character creation, you should be all set. Now that our stats are high enough to craft what we need, we can focus on gathering water since it usually shuts off before the power does. If water's still flowing in your game, then the easiest thing to do is stockpile as much as you can before it fails. Press B for the build menu, go to the Storage tab, and select the blue fluid barrel. This is what we'll use to store water in. To build a fluid barrel, you'll need a screwdriver and a basic cutting tool like an axe, a crosscut saw, or a hacksaw. You'll also need plastic scraps and screws. Once you've gathered the tools and materials, build a fluid barrel close to a sink with running water. You'll need to transfer water from the sink to the fluid barrel. You can use plastic buckets, muck tubs, or large water bottles, but I recommend the large water jugs since they hold roughly 700 fluid ounces of water each, making them the largest fluid containers in the game. You can find the large water jugs in the Saranac Sunrise Methodist Church. Go in the back door and head into the small office in the back corner of the church. You'll most likely have to pick a few locks if someone else hasn't picked them already. If you're struggling with inventory space, you can empty the jugs before you pick them up. A completely full jug can weigh as much as 45 pounds. Once you have some fluid containers to transfer water with, target a sink, press Tab to open your inventory, select a fluid container, and choose the Refill from Sink option. Then target the fluid barrel, press Tab to open your inventory, select a full fluid container, and choose the Pour into Fluid Tank option. Repeat this process until the barrel is full. Now you can move the fluid barrel to wherever you want it positioned in your base. Congratulations! You can now stockpile water in vain. To make connections in vain, tell yourself, I want this to receive water or power from that. This is where you add the connection. That is what you want to connect to. Since we want our sink to receive water from the fluid barrel, we target the sink first and select the Examine Connections menu option. This will show you all the incoming and outgoing connections to your sink. At the bottom of the Connections panel, click the Add Connection button. This creates an animated green line to visually show the connection you're making. If you look at the fluid barrel, you'll see a small blue water droplet icon. Click on the blue water droplet icon to establish a connection. Now if you target the sink and examine connections, you'll see the fluid barrel is connected under the Receiving Connections list. Active water connections are color-coded blue, inactive connections are grayed out. A large blue fluid barrel can hold roughly 6,600 fluid ounces, which should last you several days or even weeks in-game. You can continue to craft and fill fluid barrels to stockpile as much water as you like. If you join a game after the water has shut off, you'll get the "nothing comes out" message when you try to drink from a sink. We'll need to drive out to any natural body of water, like a river or lake, and take enough materials to build a fluid barrel along with several empty fluid containers to fill it with. Build a fluid barrel on the shore next to the water. Target the water, press Tab to open your inventory, select an empty fluid container, and choose the Refill from Water option. Now fill the fluid barrel the same way we did before. Once the barrel is full, place the barrel on top of your vehicle using the Move option and drive it back to your base. Congratulations! You can now gather water in vain. Water from rivers and lakes is considered impure and needs to be boiled before you can drink it. Using a stove or campfire, you'll need either a cast iron pan, a sauce pot, an oven dish, a kettle, or a large cooking pot to boil your water in. You can gather all of these utensils from any kitchen. Place your fluid containers full of impure water and one of the cooking utensils in the stove's inventory. In the left column, scroll down the list of cooking options until you get to the brewing recipes at the bottom of the list. Click Boiled Water several times until all of your impure water is added to the cooking queue and your fluid containers in the stove's inventory are empty. Turn on the stove to boil the water. As the water comes to a boil, it'll automatically be removed from the stove and placed in the Resultant Liquid slot at the bottom of the middle column. Once you've boiled all the water, drag and drop the empty fluid container on the Resultant Fluid slot to collect the purified water. You can now move the fluid container from the stove's inventory into your own inventory. Your fluid barrel is probably still full of impure water, so you'll need to craft another fluid barrel to keep your impure and pure water separate. Congratulations! You can now purify water to survive the apocalypse. Gathering water is fine in the short term, but it's a real hassle. You're going to want to automate gathering water for the long term as soon as possible. Your only two options are to build a rain collector or dig a well. To craft a rain collector, you'll need a stapler and a set of heavy pliers like adjustable pliers or a pipe wrench. You'll also need to craft reinforced wooden planks. You can craft them at any workbench by combining some metal brackets with the wooden planks you received from chopping down trees earlier. Once you've gathered all the tools and materials, press B for the Build menu, go to the Utilities tab, and build a rain collector. Be sure to build it outside and make sure your roofline doesn't block the top of the collector. Now, every time it rains, your rain collector will gather some pure water for you. You can transfer water to and from your rain collector the same way you did with sink and fluid barrels. You can also connect your sink directly to a rain collector to provide running water. Congratulations! You can now collect rainwater in vain. A well will require limestone bricks to construct. There's also an insulated rain collector you can build using scrap metal parts and plastic ingots. To keep this video short, I'm going to refer you to my ultimate base building guide for the limestone bricks and scrap metal parts. Specifically, the Tier 3 fortification section for forging limestone bricks and the Tier 4 fortification section for making scrap metal parts. Once you make the scrap metal parts, you can build an insulated rain collector that you can use during the winter month. To dig a well, you'll need a shovel, a heavy hammer like a sledgehammer or a mini sledge, a basic cutting tool like a pair of scissors, and some cloth scraps. You can find a shovel in almost any gardening shed. Scissors can be found in most offices. I usually get my cloth scraps off of zombies. After you kill a zombie, search it, and use the Quick Dismantle feature to dismantle all of their clothes. To enable the Quick Dismantle feature, hit Escape, go to Settings, click the Gameplay tab, and scroll to the bottom of the list of options and set Quick Dismantle to On. Now you can alt-click items in your inventory to quickly dismantle them for crafting materials. Place your scissors and cloth scraps in any workbench and craft 2 cloth rope. Now that you have all the tools and materials, build a well somewhere outside your base. A new well starts out empty, but slowly fills over time. I ran some simple tests and found the well's fill rate to be roughly 8 fluid ounces per in-game hour, or roughly 190 fluid ounces per in-game day. Congratulations! You can now gather groundwater from your well. Groundwater is impure just like rivers and lakes, so you'll need to boil well water in order to drink it safely. You can use impure water to water your garden, so I usually run my garden sprinklers off my well. Speaking of sprinklers, at this point we've covered all the tools and materials needed to make them, so when you're ready to start growing crops, be sure to add a sprinkler. When running water to a sprinkler, remember our saying, I want this to receive water from that. Since we want this sprinkler to receive water from that well, we add the connection at the sprinkler and target the well. I find that one sprinkler can water up to 4 large planters placed side by side. The well fills faster than sprinklers can consume water, so it's safe to leave them running even when you're offline. Congratulations, you can now water your plants to survive the apocalypse. If you survive long enough to make it to winter, you'll find that water tends to freeze. Since all of the natural bodies of water freeze during winter, we'll need to find a new source to gather water from. There are 2 sources of water that don't freeze during winter. The first are the large water towers you'll find near most farms. Go up to the water tower, target the red handle, and fill your fluid containers that way. You can also get water from the cabins in any of the campgrounds found in Vane. As long as the sink is connected to the square white containers out back, it'll still work during the winter. Congratulations, you can now gather water during winter in Vane. Power is a little more complicated than water. The developers have plans for a power plant or hydroelectric dam that connects to substations, that connect to junction boxes, that connect to your base's fuse box, that runs power to all of your appliances.
Critical alert regarding an infectious pathogen detected within the United States of America.
This is part of a PvP mechanic designed to let players turn the power off to local bases, forcing other players to leave their base to turn the power back on. We're going to avoid all of that by going off-grid as quickly as possible. The quickest and easiest off-grid solution is to use a generator to power your base. You can find generators at any of the cabins, campgrounds, resorts, or fire watch or lookout towers marked here on the map. You can also find multiple generators at Big Ned's Fish Shack in Dannemora on the edge of Chazy Lake. Just head inside, turn right, take your pick. You can find jerry cans in most gardening sheds. To fill a generator with gasoline, first target the generator, press tab to open your inventory, select your jerry can, and use the Pour into Fluid Tank option. A generator can hold 88 fluid ounces, while a jerry can holds roughly 700 fluid ounces, so one jerry can fill a generator several times over. A generator uses roughly 2.5 fluid ounces per in-game hour, meaning a full generator can run for roughly 1.5 in-game days. A jerry can will provide enough gasoline to run a generator for roughly 11 in-game days, buying you plenty of time to set up a more permanent, long-term power solution. Remember that your generator will provide power to your base, so when we set up connections, we say, I want this fuse box to receive power from that generator. So we add the connection at the fuse box and connect it by targeting the generator. look for a little green lightning bolt icon to connect your generator to your base's fuse box. Congratulations, you can now power your base using a generator. Generators make a lot of noise and attract unwanted attention, so we'll want to switch to solar power as soon as possible. There are several solar panels scattered around the map in Vane, usually at the shared bathrooms at any of the camping sites on the map. But the best source for solar panels is at the Bowen Hill Park in Saranac. Drive around back behind the buildings, load a solar panel onto your vehicle, and haul it back to your base. I usually place my solar panels on the roof of my base, but you can place them on the ground outside as well. They'll be protected by your utility cabinet. The solar panel will provide power the same way as a generator, so we'll add our connection at the fuse box like before and connect it directly to the solar panel. Look for the same green lightning bolt icon on the solar panel to make the connection. Congratulations, you can now power your base using a solar panel. A solar panel will only provide power when the sun is shining, so you'll either need to use a generator at night or build a makeshift battery to store power for nighttime use. To build a makeshift battery, you'll need a power driver and a soldering iron, as well as car batteries, components, scrap metal pipes, and small scrap metal sheets. Again, in order to keep this video short, I'm going to refer you to my ultimate base building guide for the components, scrap metal pipes, and small scrap metal sheets. You can find car batteries in any vehicle, and all it takes is a screwdriver to uninstall them. Once you have all the tools and materials, build a makeshift battery inside your base. Now we need to add connections. Remember that we want this makeshift battery to receive power from that generator and/or that solar panel. So we add the connections at the makeshift battery and target our generator and/or solar panel. Next, we want to connect the makeshift battery to our fuse box as an additional power source. So, we want this fuse box to receive power from that makeshift battery. Add the connection at the fuse box just like we did for the generator and solar panel. At this point, your base should have unlimited power. A makeshift battery can hold 50,000 watt-hours, which should last several days in Vane. Congratulations! Your base is now completely off-grid and fully powered. At this point, a solar panel plus a makeshift battery is enough to power your base for the rest of the apocalypse. But, if you want to experience everything Vane has to offer, you can also build a windmill. To build a windmill, you'll need a basic welder, an industrial driver, a soldering iron, advanced components, copper wire bundles, high-grade iron ingots, and lawnmower blades. To craft advanced components, you'll need regular components, plastic casings, and high-grade aluminum foil. I cover both components and plastic casings in my ultimate base building guide, so we'll focus on high-grade aluminum foil, which requires aluminum ingots. You can craft aluminum ingots in a forge using 10 aluminum scraps at roughly 1200 degrees. Place the aluminum ingots in an advanced or fabrication workbench along with a heavy hammer and a power drill and craft high-grade aluminum foil. Place a soldering iron in the workbench and use the components, plastic casings, and high-grade aluminum foil to craft advanced components. To craft high-grade iron ingots will require an industrial forge. We've already covered all the materials necessary, so once you've gathered everything you need, craft an industrial forge. The industrial forge is just like a regular forge, but allows you to combine two ingredients to forge high-grade ingots. To forge a high-grade iron ingot, we'll need a regular iron ingot and graphite powder. To get graphite powder, you'll have to mine some raw graphite from one of the many caves in Vane. Put the raw graphite into a fabrication bench along with a heavy hammer and crush it all into graphite powder. Place an iron ingot and the graphite powder into the two top ingredient slots in your industrial forge. You'll have to heat the forge to roughly 3,500 degrees, which is hotter than regular charcoal can get. You'll have to build an advanced charcoal kiln to make refined charcoal. Fortunately, we've covered everything you need to make the advanced kiln, so make one once you've gathered all the materials. You'll have to use regular charcoal as an ingredient in order to make refined charcoal. Using the graphite powder, iron ingots, and refined charcoal, forge a high-grade iron ingot. You can get lawnmower blades by dismantling lawnmowers, which can be found in most gardening sheds. Once you gather all the tools and materials you need, craft a makeshift windmill. Congratulations! You now have a windmill that'll provide power to your base, rain or shine. And that concludes the Ultimate Water and Power Guide. Do you have any tips or tricks for keeping water and power flowing to your base? Feel free to share them in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to support the channel. Thanks!